Yeah, happy to see you, Vianney, and everyone that has joined in today. Today will be our very first session, so we'll be talking about Flare. We'll be discussing uh, everything regarding Flare in terms of its technology and how it differs from most of the other EVM chains. And yeah, I'm happy to see you all. Maybe we could start with a short introduction. So we're privileged today to have the Flare Africa team lead. The community lead is here with us, and in a moment I'll give him an opportunity to speak to us. So this bootcamp has been organized by Flare Africa in partnership with Decentracode. And just to give you a little bit of detail about these two organizations, so Flare Africa is the Flare community in Africa, and we're privileged to have our community lead here today. And Decentracode is a developer community in Uganda, East Africa. It's focused on training Web3 builders, trying to see that we have more African representation in the Web3 developer community. So we support builders in a number of ways, through bootcamps like this, through contributions to products, and a number of other things as we'll keep learning. And specifically, all these sessions are going to be recorded and put on the Decentracode YouTube channel, so you can always go back and look through. If there are concepts that you didn't understand, we'll also have a forum where we'll be communicating, and I'll share the link in a moment. Yeah, and I'm happy to see everyone. I don't know if it will be possible for us to at least see how we each look like, but maybe we'll do that close to the end. But yeah, it's going to be a lovely session, set of sessions for us to with us together, going through Flare and trying to understand what it's really about. So perhaps before I really get into the presentation and trying to present what I prepared for us today, I could invite the community lead, Castro Kanish, to have a word and yeah, give us a little bit of an introduction, tell us more about Flare Africa and why it's important that we have programs like this.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity of finance. So, Castro Kani, the head of community in Flare Africa, I also happens to be the founder of Flare Africa. So I'm so glad to be here, and I'm so glad for everyone that is joining us. We need to have program like this because up until now, Flare has been around for quite some time, and there has been so many developers from many other parts of the world that are doing quite well on Play. We have the likes of Sparkbets and Flamix and all of them that are doing quite well on Play. But there has never been up until now. There has never been any African native built that of Flare until now. So we are trying to bridge that gap. Bring in more developer into Flare, and more developer, more content creator, more builders. So we need events like this are pretty much important because it give our builders, it introduce our builders to build something. And yes, whatever you are building, I would like to point it out. Whatever, if you are building anything on Flare and you are from Africa, we are always open, and we can give your projects the right spotlight. So just know you have the right support. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm glad to be here with myself.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Castra, for that amazing introduction. And now, on behalf of Decentracode, so I'm the lead, Flare Uganda, and the community in Uganda. We had an event recently. We were able to participate in a hackathon, and this is just the second of the initiatives that is happening in Africa, I think, regarding developers. I might not be accurate about that yet, but just to have a representation from Decentracode. So I'll be taking us through these sessions. along with another representative. Vianney, if you're here, you could give us a word. And then Essie Monde will also have a few sessions if she's able to join in once in a while, and probably someone also from the Flare, from the Global Flare Network community will also come in once in a while to cover up a few things. So perhaps Vianney could come up and say a word. So we'll be doing the sessions along with Vianney, and yeah.
Hello everyone. Yes, hopefully I'm audible enough.
Yes, you're.
I'm just excited about this bootcamp, about us contributing meaningfully to the Flare ecosystem. It's always exciting to see that we bring opportunities back to African builders and other people in the community, like creators, so that we can also participate meaningfully in the Web3 economy. So I'm excited to be co-teaching with the Flare lead, Manuel, and yeah, be expectant, build, and I'm already always available to support in any way possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction. So yeah, with that put across, I think we can now get into the session. So yeah, today is the very first session of the bootcamp, and we'll be having sessions each covering specific concepts, and we'll also have hands-on sessions where we just learn how to actually build on Flare. So it will be going for exactly 3 weeks, and we'll be studying on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So unless something does come up, because it's a busy session, it's a busy season, I mean, there's a lot of activity happening. There's Dev Connect happening a few weeks from now, if not a matter of days. So once in a while, we might have to communicate otherwise, but so far this is the program that we'll be following. We'll be studying on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And today is simply the first session, so I've done it at this time because it was convenient for me to do it at this time, but we'll rearrange and we'll do it an hour earlier for each of these other days. So yeah, that's it about the length of the period of the bootcamp. So we're going to be really learning how to build on Flare, and we'll be showcasing some of the products that would have been built on Flare. So there's a number of opportunities that come along with building. Now, especially even on Flare, that we're going to be learning how to build on Flare. Later on, I'll introduce you to some of the opportunities that have already been presented to us as the community in Africa, not just in Africa, but of course by the Flare community globally. Everyone that has access to the information on the Flare Dev Hub, there are certain things that are just open to you. And so, yeah, to get into Flare, you might have a number of questions. What is Flare exactly? Is it a blockchain? Is it a protocol built on a blockchain? So to clarify all those doubts at this point, so Flare is a blockchain. It's an EVM compatible layer 1, and it's the blockchain for data. So I'm going to explain that in a moment. So to understand what Flare is, does any of us have an experience with Ethereum? Do you know what Ethereum is? So I want this bootcamp it's going to be essentially technical. So if you have questions, you can always ask them right away so that we can move at the same pace. So I assume we all understand Ethereum unless someone asks the question. So, all right, so, okay. Well, Ethereum, maybe just for the redundancy, let me put it across. So Ethereum is a blockchain, and it has a software infrastructure that sustains it, that maintains it, and enables it to handle the transactions and all the operations that happen on that blockchain. It's called the Ethereum virtual machine. Now, what Flare is a blockchain just like Ethereum and runs on a similar software infrastructure. What that means is if you can write programs on Ethereum, you can as well write programs on Flare. So the most common languages for writing smart contracts on Flare or on all other IBM chains are Solidity and Yule or Julia. So if you're familiar with all those languages, well, here's an opportunity now to expand your skills into now building on Flare. So Flare is a programmable L1 blockchain, and it's designed really to bring real-world data on chain. So imagine a scenario where perhaps you want to catch information about weather, or you want to catch information about sports results, or you just want to just query some Web2 data and bring it into smart contracts. The most favorable blockchain for you to build applications that are data rich and are secure is Flare, and I'll explain why. So traditionally what would happen is you would have to use a data oracle to get that data from off-chain and bring it on-chain. And that would require that you query the smart contracts that are designed by these data oracles to bring that data on-chain. But then there's a number of things that could happen during that process because you don't know what is happening on the other side. You cannot verify it. You cannot influence it. It's just a black box. It's practically just a black box. You don't know what is really happening. All you see is the data that is delivered to you on-chain. But now, with Flare, this data is provided in a secure and efficient way. And this is how. The very validators that enable smart contracts to carry out those transactions that happen on the blockchain and verify those transactions are exactly the same validators and data providers that get this data for you on chain. So that means even for every single query of data that is coming from off chain, there has to be a consensus that is achieved. So for instance, if you want to find out if maybe during the elections, one party won over the other, there's a possibility that that data could be manipulated. Okay, that might be something that it's, might hit the news so much that it's very obvious to everyone that perhaps one party won the other. But if it is a subtle set of data, for instance, the price of Bitcoin right now, you can agree with me that almost every Web2 API has its own determined price. You don't know how the price was determined, but they do have each their own prices that have already been determined by their own criterias. And if you're ever going to use this data, for instance, if you have a decentralized application and it requires this data to make some decisions in terms of determining how much a certain transaction should cost, or maybe how much you should reward a certain liquidity provider, or maybe how much that is required to be given out to someone in terms of an exchange when they have done a swap. It is very critical that you get the accurate real-world price of a certain asset for you to take out the relatively accurate amount on the other side for a specific equivalent of that asset when someone does the swap. But just imagine if a data oracle was hacked, and then somehow, while you are receiving this data into your smart contract, which by the way at that point you have very little control over, the price is delivered and the price is wrong. So for instance, maybe you have Bitcoin at $2,000. So that means if someone, or maybe you have Ethereum at $1,000, when the actual reward price of Ethereum at that time might be maybe $4,000. So that means the possibility of you, not even a possibility, but that simply means that if someone does a swap with that exact price of Ethereum that you derived, they are going to take out an amount of tokens on the other side that is much, much more. You get the point? That is much, much more than they would have taken out if the price of Ethereum was, got in the accurate reward price. So the point is, when you use a decentralized oracle, like the ones we're going to be talking about regarding Flare, you have all these participants, the nodes, the data providers, the validators on the Flare blockchain that are providing this data, and each of them picks this data from different places. So that means that when, in terms of prices, I'm talking about price data specifically now, so that means that when all these nodes are getting this data, they're going to compare the results that they have, and then an average is achieved. So before that data is even provided to your smart contracts, it has gone through a process of evaluating its authenticity by the entire set of validators, the entire set of data providers. So you're receiving information in a form that is secure and efficient. And we will see how this actually happens in real practice. So yeah, that's essentially what Flare is for. It picks real-world data and brings it on chain in a format that is secure and efficient. So that means the smart contracts interact with the real world in a way that allows for, legitimate interaction between both the blockchain environment and the real world, without there having to be wary of components of security being tampered with during the process of this communication happening. So that's basically about Flare, the preamble. So it's EVM compatible. What that means is that you can write smart contracts in exactly the same language as you would write on Ethereum, as you'd write on any other EVM compatible blockchain. And we'll see the differences that make Flare suitable for the purpose that it's designed for, to bring real-world data on chain. Now, this is the real component about Flare that makes it different from all the other blockchains. It has enshrined data protocols, data oracles. What that means is that when you're trying to get data from the external world, outside of your smart contract, outside of your blockchain, outside the blockchain, it's not going to be picked through an external data oracle, but the process through which that data is actually delivered to you is baked within the actual consensus mechanism, the actual infrastructure, the software infrastructure that Flare runs on. So that means the protocols are within the core of the validation process of Flare itself. So what that means is that the very data providers, the very validators that will validate and verify transactions on the blockchain, on the Flare blockchain, that will verify the transactions in all the things that you're doing, whether you're transferring FLR tokens or any other tokens on the blockchain, or you're storing some data in your smart contracts. The nodes that validate all those transactions that you're doing through the exact same process using these very specific ensuring data protocols also provide data for you on chain, data that you will need from the external world. So for those that built on Flare during the HIP9 hackathon, I know you might have touched upon some of these things, and we'll be going through them in detail, trying to understand them. So up to this point, I don't know if there are questions. I'm open to clarify. You could just type them in the chat, or you can unmute and speak about the question that you have. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'll just move ahead. So to get into the details of these actual protocols, these actual oracles, Flare has distinguished oracles for specific purposes. The very first one is the one called Flare Time Series Oracle. Now this serves a specific purpose of providing price data, and we will see how to interact with it when we start doing the practical sessions. So if you want to know the current price of Bitcoin, if you want to know the current price of Ethereum, if you want to know the current price of FLR, you'll be interacting with FTSO, Flare Time Series Oracle, to enable you to receive this data in an efficient and secure way, like we've been talking about earlier. We'll also get into the details of how validation is achieved, maybe even talk about the consensus mechanism in later sessions, but today is just really the introduction for you to understand why it's important for you to build applications, data-rich applications, using Flare as the blockchain, because all the data is provided in a secure and efficient manner. So if you want to price data, you'll be interacting with the Flare Time Series Oracle. This is the one that provides all the price data of the different digital assets. And the list keeps growing longer And this data is provided in a frequency that is fast enough that your applications will not have to slow down because maybe the query has taken long. So it's approximately, I think it's approximately 2 seconds. Of course, this varies, but it's relatively around the same, around that standard of time. That if you queried the price of Bitcoin, you'd receive it under 2 seconds. That's what it means. Even with all the validation that actually goes on among all the different data providers to verify that this data is actually authentic, it will take that a short time for that to happen. And the other thing I would love to talk about is that all these data providers are staked. What that means is that you as a person that holds Flare tokens, this is something we might talk about later, but just to present how decentralized and open it is for you to participate in the data provision process. So you as a person that will hold the FLR token, which is the native token of the Flare blockchain, you can delegate your tokens to any of these data providers. And the advantage that comes with that is that the weight of delegation that a data provider has determines the influence of the results that they provide in the overall price of an asset that is determined at the end of the validation process. So the more delegation a data provider has, the more the price is skewed towards the data that they provided. So that gives you the power in a way that in case you have a query or you're skeptical about the legitimacy of the data that a certain data provider has, you could simply withdraw your delegation and maybe give it to someone that is, offering data in a more legitimate and efficient way. So that's an incentive for everyone to participate legitimately. It's the whole purpose of decentralization, that everyone at some level you have the power to participate in the overall process of delivering something or supporting a cause or an end goal. So in this case, it's data provision, and the data providers play their role, but their role is influenced by any other participant that holds FLR tokens. We might go through this in detail later, but that's the advantage of these enshrined oracles and how they deliver information. That everyone has the openness to participate. In contrast to a traditional data oracle, unless you're actually going to be a node runner or a validator in the data oracle network itself, otherwise, for you as a developer, the only thing you can do is receive the data, and that's the only point at which you can participate, and it's just for you to receive the data. So the process of how the data is delivered and what happens behind there is really not for you to engage yourself in, unless of course if you choose to be on the other side, which is not very accessible for so many people. And yeah, this is one of the advantages of using enshrined oracles like Flare does. It gives everyone the opportunity to participate, and the data is provided in a secure and efficient way. Then the second oracle, the second protocol that is used for providing data is a Flare data connector. So FTSO, Flare Time Series Oracle, is simply for providing prices. Then the Flare data connector is the one that has the semblance of a bridge, of a cross-chain bridge, because it's used for providing information from other blockchains and also from Web2 sources. So for instance, if you want to verify if maybe a certain operation has happened in a smart contract on Ethereum, through FDC, Flare Data Connector, you can now do some operations within your smart contracts on Flare based on that proof. And it all happens through FDC, and still all these proofs are also provided through these validators, through these nodes. So everything is decentralized, and it happens directly in the validation process itself of the transaction. So that means the majority of the nodes the consensus that they come up with regarding proofs or attestations of operations that have happened on other blockchains determine whether the data is accurate, whether the proofs are actually valid or not. And so if you want to perhaps pick some information from any Web2 API, for instance, you want to get maybe perhaps you want to know what the weather will be like tomorrow, and maybe use that information somewhere in your smart contracts. So even during the hackathon, the ETH Nile hackathon, someone actually did something like that. They picked weather data from an external API, a Web2 API, brought it on chain, and then they were utilizing the parameters within that data that they've derived to determine whether a person's insurance policy should, reward them with some tokens, or maybe they should just keep paying the premium. So it was a crop insurance platform, and this is all possible through this protocol, Flare Data Connector. And it's not just weather data that you can derive. You might want any random kind of information that you can pick from, that you would normally pick from an API. You can now get it through FDC and bring it on chain. So we'll also be learning how to build with FDC and FTSO. Then finally is F-Assets. So this one is a little unique, and it's designed for scaling non-smart contract chains, non-smart contract digital assets. So these are the assets that were not designed to be programmable, or they are on blockchains that do not accept programmability. And there are three that are very prominent in this regard. There is Bitcoin. I'm sure you all know about Bitcoin. There is XRP, also called Ripple, XRPL. XRPL, L stands for the ledger, then XRP is the token, and then Dogecoin. So there are loads and loads of digital value that have been stored in these different tokens, and they didn't have access to DeFi. That means you could not do anything you would traditionally do with DeFi. Things like lending and borrowing and staking and liquid staking and all those other new DeFi offerings that are coming up, they're just not possible natively on Bitcoin. But now, with protocols like F-Assets, it is now introducing DeFi, which is decentralized finance, onto these tokens, onto these assets. So that means if you hold Bitcoin, if you hold XRP, if you hold Dogecoin, there's now a possibility of you actually earning yield, or perhaps any other DeFi offering that exists. You can now participate with your Doge tokens. So Doge hasn't been explored yet, even Bitcoin on the Flare network specifically. Elsewhere, I think Bitcoin has had quite a number of innovations regarding scaling it into DeFi, but now XRP is one of the projects that has been explored to the highest extent in the vertical of project and innovation. So there's a number of projects on the Flare network. We might see a few of them that are trying to enable DeFi for XRP or Ripple. So if you're holding Ripple, you need to check out some of these projects. They might give you an opportunity for you to participate in DeFi for with your tokens. It might be in governance, might be in lending and borrowing, it might be in liquid staking, it might be in liquidity provision, a number of things that are coming up. Some of them are really still in a point of beta, and they're being tested, but the future is really bright. So yeah, again, are there any questions before I can move on? Okay, thank you. So, well, today I seem to have only legends, but it's cool. So yeah, this QR code is to connect you to all the Flare Africa forums. It links to the link tree of Flare Africa, so you can take a screenshot of it, or if you have access to your phone, you can just scan it. You can through this, you'll be able to join the Flare Africa Telegram. You'll be able to follow Flare Africa on X. Yeah, and then from there, we'll continue to communicate, specifically where we'll have our resources shared. So let me actually share the link to the topic where we'll have our resources shared. Any other thing I'll be talking about that that might need you to catch a link, or later on get some resources, we'll be sharing them in that topic on the Flare Africa Telegram channel. So you can join through that link, or you can also just follow Flare Africa on X. I think somewhere will be able, even here through the link tree, you'll be able to join the Telegram. So yeah, make sure to scan the QR code and give a shout out to Flare Africa on X after you follow. Yeah, let's keep building. So yes, Flare, like we've been talking about, is a blockchain for data. So now I want to share a few resources that might be helpful to anyone as we go along. Since we're all going to be developing together, some of these resources might be important for you to just know them, and you can explore them in your own time ahead of our next session on Monday. So please make sure to join the Telegram channel. We'll be communicating everything in there. Make sure not to miss out. So on the Flare Networks blockchain, rather on the Flare Networks website, everything is right here that you will need, every resource that you will need for you to get into building yourself. And maybe as I continue to go through some of the developer resources, I'll show you some of the opportunities that do exist for you as a developer. They might be accessible to you now, some might not be accessible to you now in terms of your experience and expertise, but having the vision that you could actually access them sometime in the future, I believe is a beautiful thing. So the developer resources are right here. When you click there, you'll be able to get them. Maybe I could talk about the grants. So if you can build a protocol, or rather, if you can build an application or a decentralized application, a project on Flare, there's a grant program for that. And this is something that you can explore if maybe at the end of this this bootcamp, you might be able to build something that can afford you a grant from Flare and support as you continue to build. So then the Flare developer resources right here, you'll be able to get everything that you need to develop. Let me go to the developer hub. So so we're going to be essentially building with Solidity, but also there are SDKs for different languages. So if you have experience building with Rust, if you have experience building with Go, if you have experience building with JavaScript, there is something you can still do with the Flare developer resources here. So you don't have to worry that you're a JavaScript native or a Rust native developer. There's still a number of things that you can touch upon that will enable you to access the Flare protocols and be able to build within the Flare ecosystem still. So yes, they might not give you exactly the same access as someone that is writing smart contracts, but with them you could still do a lot more things, really powerful things, as we'll keep seeing when we continue into the development. So right here you can find everything, most of the requirements that you need to build, the guides for the different languages. I'm going to share these here, but I'll also share them in the dev resource, rather in the Telegram channel, so that we can always access them, even if we lose them from right here. Okay, I want to show you something very specific. So when we get into the dev resources and then go to the developer hub, here you'll find everything you need to build on Flare. So just like most blockchains, Flare has a testnet and a mainnet. But unique to Flare, and this is very unique to even to just a few other blockchains, it has a canary network. So for those that have been building somewhere, maybe in the Polkadot ecosystem, I'm sure there's an entire canary ecosystem there. So what we do with a Canary ecosystem is with a Canary blockchain, Canary network, is that any other protocol modifications that are required for Flare to be more effective or more efficient at delivering data and maybe making it more fortified and secure, everything is tested there before it's deployed on the Flare network, before it's accessible on the Flare network. So if you're someone that has experience in maybe protocol research and protocol design, you might be of more value in that area. But also, if you're looking forward to it, being a protocol researcher, protocol architect, this is something that is possible. I know. Okay, so let me just maybe share these too. So here you'll find every information, the configurations you need to integrate Flare or its testnet into your applications. We'll see how to use it, and yeah, also build with some of these some of the tools that are within the Flare ecosystem. If you're a node runner, we'll maybe have just a session about node running, but might not be the core of the bootcamp, but I'll talk about it a little. Either you want to run a client node or a validator node, it is possible for you. If you want to be a delegator, it is also possible. And there's also a number of resources that, let me share the Flare YouTube channel. I think it has quite a number of great things for you in whatever capacity to for you to participate in the Flare ecosystem. Also, I think I should also talk about this. So you might be aspiring to security and smart contracts auditing or security research. Flare now actually has a bug bounty on Immunify. So Immunify is one of those platforms where protocols put up a set of put aside an amount of money for people to come and explore and test the protocol, test some of the ecosystem smart contracts to see if there are any vulnerabilities that they could help notify the network core team about and get rewarded for it. So that's what bug bounties are for. And there's one here by Flare. You can see the amount. It's quite handsome, and either you might already know how to audit smart contracts or audit protocols, or you might be looking forward to it. So it's an opportunity for you to, take a step into learning how to write smart contracts. Then maybe eventually later on take on the role of being a security researcher, security auditor, but it starts here. And also just knowing that these opportunities do exist for you. I think it's something that we rarely explore, we rarely talk about. But yeah, it's an opportunity. So if you've this actually might detail what exactly they are talking about and what this bug bounty is really about. So you can explore it and try to look through to see, yeah, if you might be of help, trying to help the Flare network be more secure. And the Immunify is open. It's not just for Flare, it's open to a number of other projects, and you can always come here and check out where you might be of help. So specifically, this is for Flare. If you have a solution to something you might have identified within the protocol or within some of the ecosystem projects, perhaps if that's what they require of you here, you can submit. But yeah, it was just to show you that this is also there. And regarding building, I think these are some of the resources that might be helpful for you. And we'll keep sharing more and more. I don't want to bombard you with a lot of information. It might be overwhelming. But you can take the time before our next session to explore these developer resources. And also the Flare YouTube channel. It has quite a number of resources, and I think they might be really, really helpful for anyone that is interested in building in Flare. So I have a playlist I think I saw here. Yeah, a playlist about building on Flare from Encode Club. Yes, there is one from Encode Club, but then there's another. Yeah, maybe these two might be helpful. They are really short videos, So they will help you catch up before we join in on the next session, so that you don't have to be really green about Flare itself as we get into the more advanced sessions of writing smart contracts on Flare. It's really helpful if you actually understand what Flare is really about. It's much easier when you have this insight that when you start writing smart contracts, you won't have to spend a lot of time trying to understand some of the things. Yes, Hassan, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I was asking about the Telegram link is not open. When you click on it, it doesn't open. I don't know why.
Oh, it's not open. But
Yeah, it is
have
not
you
open, you know.
scanned the QR code?
Even like, let me say, like, even copying it is not copying.
Okay. So have you scanned the QR code?
Not yet. I was up and down.
Okay. So perhaps if you scan the QR code, you have access to the Telegram channel, the general Telegram channel, the Flare Africa Telegram community channel.
Okay.
Maybe I could share the link to that. I hope I can reach
Okay,
it.
you can share.
The easiest I can do really is to share the actual QR code. So you can take a screenshot of the QR code. It will give you access to all the community access platforms, either on X or Telegram. So yeah, I'm going to put it on the screen in a moment, and you'll be able to scan it. Yes. So, are there any specific questions regarding what the things we've talked about so far? Okay. Well, if you have any questions later on, you can put them in the developer section on the Flare Africa channel, the Telegram channel. So I'll be able to answer them, but also anyone that might already know the answers to the questions that have been asked, you can always just come in and give the answers. Okay, Hassan, I think you should be able to scan this. It will give you access to everything you need about regarding the Flare community. Yeah, otherwise I intended for this session to be really short, just to give you an introduction about Flare, and there might be a few things that I might have left out because of the degree of their technicality, but we'll keep understanding them as we go on, especially regarding the protocols themselves. Yeah, and unless there are some questions, I would love to close it here and wish you a wonderful evening. And please make sure to join the Telegram channel. But if you're having difficulty doing that, make sure to take this QR code. I might not be able to reach out to you later on if I don't have access to either your phone number or something. But yeah, at least if you get to the Telegram, it's easier for us to troubleshoot any issues that you might be having. All right, yeah. I would love to close it here and wish you a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for joining the very first session. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a more interactive session the next time we meet. Thank you, Brenda. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Patrick.